This one is hilarious for many, many reasons. Uh, so, guys, once again, go and check the article. Thank you, BBC, for this interesting article where an US man, yeah, it's not Florida man this time, sues
Florida
psychic who,
man.
Yep.
yeah,
Florida
which it was.
man. It's always Florida man.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was. So this guy sues psychic who promised to remove his ex-girlfriend's curse. And there is an American saying that I really like, and I loved it when I learned, which is, a fool and his money are soon deported. And this applies perfectly because this guy went on his own accord following some, either he's Googled this or he found publicity and followed it. But he went with a psychic love specialist and PhD life coach. Yeah, he followed this person. And obviously, she realized she had a sucker in front of her. So she told him immediately after reading the tarot for him that there was a course by his ex-girlfriend who hired a witch to curse him. And yeah, you can imagine the result. After paying $1,000, this guy, the name is Restrepo. Mr. Restrepo says that Mrs. Adams, the tarotist who read for him, did not help in any way. And he said that his marriage has been suffering, he and his marriage have been suffering from sleepless nights, anxiety, and anguish. Because, yeah, he didn't see the magic working from this magical person. So, guys, what is your opinion on
magic
that?
Meter. Yeah. I want to know how he vetted his psychic. Like, how do you know that the psychic you're hiring is more powerful than the witch that your ex-girlfriend hired? Like,
well, because she has a PhD, right? So that's way more legit.
Oh,
no, but the PhD is in life coaching, not in tarotism, so or whatever the name is.
I mean, a PhD is great, but if your psychic has a crystal ball of larceny that awards 10%, 10 points to conjuration, maybe I could see it. But until that comes out, like, what methods do these? Like, this is mind-boggling.
I know, it's the battle of the psychic and the witch, and you're right.
Yeah,
how do you know that psychic is more powerful than that witch, right?
Yeah.
So what really got me about that is that he didn't say, oh, you swindled me, you're not a psychic, psychics don't really exist, or whatever. He said, you didn't actually break the curse, which leads me to believe he may potentially still believe that there's a curse.
He totally didn't learn his lesson. No.
That's why he can't sleep. He's sure that there is a curse on him, and he hasn't.
And his marriage is now falling apart because of this curse that she didn't break. So,
yeah,
it's totally the curse's fault. Your marriage is falling apart.
Also, I've seen witches fighting each other, and sometimes witches, quotation mark, those people go and hit the other person to stop them from making the curses, and people pay for that. They pay like, yeah, go and beat that other witch so her curse is broken. And
wait, you've seen a witch fight? Did they turn anyone into a newt? That's all I want to know.
Oh, I wish they had, but no. The guy got better.
Did they get better?
I knew you were going there.
you know I was going to make... Hey, a non-profits episode without a Monty Python reference is a non-profits episode I don't want to be a part of.
Because it's an episode without Nate, though. Yeah. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to take this back to religion as I usually do. Am I obsessed with religion? I hope not. But this is part of letting magical thinking come into you. As soon as you let magical thinking come into your mind, you're going to start believing all type of crazy things. And what is more interesting for me about mediums is that the Bible tells you not to go with mediums. So the only place that is giving you this idea that there are mediums is the Bible. And I actually love how the Bible contradicts itself. Because, for example, Saul went to a medium to talk with Samuel, who was dead. And Jesus talked to Moses and Elijah in certain mountain, who were also dead. But at the same time, the Bible says that once you die, there is no consciousness, so you cannot talk to death. And despite that, God goes and forbids people from talking to the dead. So, yeah, I love how much the church contradicts the church. No, the Bible. The Bible contradicts itself. And how crazy is that these stories that make people believe in those mediums, they specifically are telling you, don't do it. Your God is forbidding it. Don't follow mediums. and they do this type of stupid stuff. What is wrong with people?
Bible illiteracy.
Yeah.
Most likely,
And
Yeah.
and to
But
your point as well, there is a wizard's battle in the Bible.
yes, there is.
Yes.
Which
And
one?
I remember this
Oh,
this
yeah, of
popped
course
up
there
in my
is.
head because it was part of my deconstruction as a child when I was actually reading the Bible when I was a kid. And I'm like, wait a second, I thought you said magic wasn't real, Mom. And she's like, well, magic isn't real. And I'm like,
But it is
well,
the
but
Bible.
this turned
Yeah.
into a snake. And then because
The other,
Aaron's magic was better than Pharaoh's magic, his snake ate the other snake. And so, like, you know, there's obviously degrees of magical power, but so which is it? Like, is there only one God? Is there multiple gods? Are there multiple sources of magic? I don't know.
yeah, I had the same doubt when I read that part. I think that I was told back in the day that the other ones were, doing tricks only. But
Mhm.
no, Moses was the real one. He had real magic, and the other ones were imitating or something like that.
But that's only if you're reading
So,
the Bible cross-eyed and not actually reading the words, because they do talk about
Right.
an actual snake eating an actual snake, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's like a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. But let's get
yes.
back. Yeah, I'm gonna bring us back around to the article a little bit because we are, and then Teo makes a good point. Okay, so magical thinking is prevalent throughout multiple religions. In fact, I don't really know of a religion that doesn't have some sort of magical thinking. So you do bring up a good point there that people are very susceptible to the belief in magical thinking in general. And one thing, like when I was making my notes, the things that I thought of was one, we're still very ignorant and gullible, many of us. And two, we're also very litigious in this society, or I don't even know if I'm saying that word right. Litigious, litigious.
You got litigious.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got it.
litigious. Yeah, in this society. So we have both the mixing of magical thinking, which results in the people spending copious amounts of money in hopes of these various magical cures or magical breaking of curses. And then when things don't work out the way that they want them to, they jump straight to the court system with "I demand my money back."
Oh, yeah. This is the type of things that happen, and that this is the type of answer that we should give when people ask, "Hey, what is the harm that people believe in stuff?" People, this is the harm. You end up believing awful, terrible things. Didn't we talk about the link between anti-vaxxers and extremely religious people here some episodes ago? That's all part of magical thinking. And these are the same people who are starting to believe conspiracies. And I'm not talking about the possible conspiracies. I'm talking about stuff like, no, COVID is just an invention because they want to reduce population, because apparently that makes people with money more powerful. That's what you say when you don't understand about economy.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the problem. Magical thinking opens the gates to all those silly stuff that people can believe, and they are going to be scammed. They are going to be deceived in so many ways. And worst of all, people without logical thinking, strange stuff is going to happen to them, and they immediately are going to go with the word of the supernatural instead of trying to understand what actually happened.
No, so you bring up a really good point because a lot of times people want to say like, well, what's the harm in terms of like what is the huge universal harm or like the earth-shattering harm in this belief? But let's talk about the harm to just a specific individual, right? So in this specific case, you have a guy whose marriage is falling apart, and now, okay, so if he doesn't believe this magical thinking, his marriage could technically still be falling apart. But what is being done in reparation, like of that marriage? What is being done to heal the marriage? Nothing, because they're going for all these magical, mystical solutions versus, I don't know, couples therapy.
Yeah.
And when you're afraid that your marriage is falling apart because of a curse, you're automatically going to approach it differently. Like what can be done to solve it? And every single bad thing that happens is a reinforcement that, well, yep, look, we're definitely cursed because that happened again, right? So it stymies any sort of progress in fixing the problem and probably even makes the problem worse. And you can think of other examples too, like the woman
Oh yeah.
whose sex life is hindered and squelched because she believes or her husband believes that like sex is only for the reproduction of children and da 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 da, and her sexuality is now put in a bag and in a closet and locked away from the world, right? Because they're convinced that this magical being out there doesn't like female sexuality or whatever. So I mean, it might not have huge, monumental, universal repercussions, but it has repercussions for that individual and for the individuals that they convince of this same truth.
Well,
Yeah,
I could
beliefs
summon
inform actions. Absolutely. That's the whole point. Beliefs
an
inform actions,
Yeah.
and doesn't matter whether you go to a psychic instead of a couples therapy, or whether you vote for a slug like Mark Robinson, right? This leads to bad stuff happening.
I'm going to argue against you guys. I mean, not against you, but I think that Laura is actually. I think that it does have earth-shattering possibilities. Have you heard about those guys who are so into their religion that they are going to reject all science because it contradicts their religion, and they don't want to do anything to change global warming or climate change because
Right.
God is powerful.
Because the
God
rapture is
created
coming.
and the rapture is coming, and they keep destroying the world. They don't care about our effing planet. We live in this place, people. This is our only home, and you want to destroy it because of a stupid fantasy about an eternal life during a magical genocide.
Yeah, instead of
It's
taking care
terrible.
of what's right here in front of you right now, you're gonna be seeing to some eternal other
Exactly.
place that you're gonna go to when you die. You bring up a good point. So I would only clarify that I don't mean that there aren't huge repercussions to some beliefs. I would say
Oh
that
yeah,
a belief doesn't have to have those kind of repercussions to still be dramatic in somebody's life and to still have negative impact on somebody's life. So some
gotcha.
beliefs they appear to be really tame and they appear to not harm anybody, but what are they doing to that specific individual? Right? And what are they doing to how the individual parents or how the individual approaches other people or how they approach conflict or the world around them, right? So it does have at least some repercussions, even if it seems silly on the
Absolutely.
outside. Like going to a psychic to break a curse, right? It sounds kind of silly and like there's no potential repercussions, but clearly there are because the guy's life is falling apart.
Well, yeah, it affects how you vet ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, just look at superstitions. How those things can destroy your life because you don't want to go outside certain day, you don't want to work for a certain place, and it's all based on magical thinking. And yeah, following the idea of the monumental repercussions, then you have certain presidents who are chosen because religious leaders are telling their people, vote for this guy. He's the new, not Antichrist, he's the second coming of Jesus or stuff like that. Or is demonic not voting for this guy as your president? So yeah, I understand, Laura. You're totally right. Yeah, there are small ways of getting harmed by magical thinking,
And
and
there's
at the
big
same
ways.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
I want to add that there are also huge
Oh,
ways of how
absolutely.
we
When
hurt.
when you talk about a specific ideology having beliefs attached to it, right? And then so you feel like you have to support those beliefs. And now you're talking about voting for the person who's more likely to support those beliefs. Or the lesser of two evils, which has come up a lot in our last few elections. Like, well, we don't like any of the politicians, but we have to vote for the lesser of two evils. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't.
There's a
But
third option.
right there, yeah, or many more options. But the idea is that I have all these beliefs that are very core to me. And because I have those beliefs, I need to now go vote for this person that is the most likely to support those beliefs, even if I know him to be reprehensible, him or her, even if I know that person to not be the best for that office. So yeah, absolutely. There are some really big repercussions to magical thinking in general. Um, what do you guys think about the rest of the article? Like where he's now seeing okay, so it says he spent $1,000 initially, but he spent a lot more money overall. He says overall he spent $5,100. It's $5,100 to exercise the spell, right? So overall he paid so the 1,000 was up front, and he paid a lot more overall. There's that. There's how do you spend that much money and justify it? But then he's also seeking $25,000 in damages. So we're talking big. We're talking. I mean, you think about the dollar, like I'm sorry, the corner psychic that you pay, like $25, get your palm read or whatever, and
Yep.
okay, maybe it's a little bit harmless. It's like a couple of Starbucks coffees or whatever. We're talking big money.
Thousands. Yeah. I guess. Well, I read the money that he's asking for, and that is because of the emotional damage that he suffered. Uh, yeah, I mean, poor guy. I think that the first time she asked like for 6,000 $6,000, and then he made an initial deposit of 1,000,
Mhm.
and nothing changed, and that's why he has been suffering all this time, and he is suing. Yeah, I guess it's better that he tries to sue than just say, okay, she just deceived me and leaving. I don't know, Nate.
I mean, behind closed doors, I can't help but laugh at this guy. In public on the nonprofits, I feel like I should say that the guy's kind of a victim of his own shitty
Okay, there you
belief
go.
system.
Okay.
So I do feel bad for him. I definitely don't think he should win this case. But I do feel bad for people that are victims of this poor epistemology. Like, he's arrived at this whole system of thinking he knows that psychic forces are real and isn't demanding any sort of evidence for, results before he goes and
Wait.
gives this psychic another $1,000 or another $1,000. He's just like, this is what this is the whole problem. This is kind of why I like doing shows like this. This is why I engage with anti-vaxxers at work, because these people are victims of shitty ideas, and folks like us, folks like the folks in our audience, we can make a difference. You can engage these people, and it is frustrating, but we can win.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, maybe he should actually win, so we can prove that, hey, those people do nothing. Don't give your money to them. And yeah, let's give this poor guy some slack. Even though I also laugh at him. Sorry.
I don't know about him winning, because it gives credence to the whole, like, oh, she was unable to break the curse, but it doesn't say that psychics are wrong or bad or fake. It just shows that
Oh, I
she
thought it
wasn't
would prove that she
successful.
was fake. Oh,
I-
okay, good point.
She forgot her crystal ball of
It-
larceny, Laura.
Yeah, because he says she wasn't successful in breaking the curse, which insinuates that there was still a curse, right? So I
Oh,
don't know. There's all sorts of problems with this, but I do agree with you. There is some lessons that can be learned if he does win. Like, hey, this is BS, and maybe second guess it a little bit. But that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our show.